Hi, my name is Gabe. So you're probably a little bit confused about this new movie called Tron Ares. Turns out, if you didn't know, it's part of a trilogy. But how did we get here and why? So let's start at the beginning. This is Tron 1982. Tron 1982, which I'm representing, it was like a first of its kind. It had really stunning visuals, really unique things that it was doing. One of the biggest things that Tron was doing back in the day was that it was doing 3D graphics. So the light cycles that we see, a really cool thing that they did is that they had to use primitive shapes in order to make more advanced shapes that we see in the movie. So it's very, very not super advanced. And one of the scenes that I vividly remember for Tron was this scene of the light cycles escaping from the recognizer. That's very primitive in what it was doing, but I mean, it was pretty cool. The budget was $17 million. It made $33 million. And a lot of people really liked it to an extent. It was considered a okay hit. It wasn't the big success that they wanted it to be. And so Disney was like, okay, cool, this didn't work out. So for 28 years, people wanted a sequel. In fact, there was an unofficial sequel that I didn't write here called Tron 2.0. It was a video game that came out between that 20-year time frame that was the spiritual successor to Tron 1982. And the game was pretty good for the most part. The enemies, though, were relentless. Maybe that explains Tron Ares, but we'll get to that in just a second. But yeah, Tron 2.0 was really cool, but then Disney in 2010 was like, all right, well, let's finally make a sequel into Tron Legacy. Tron Legacy is the Tron that most people think of. It was really huge at the time. This Tron did a lot of things. For one, it has the famous director Joseph Kosinski. Apologies if I got his name incorrect, but he was so successful. Well, not really. I'll talk about that in just a second. But you probably know him from Top Gun Maverick and also the new Formula One movie. This was his first film. So he made Tron Legacy. It was huge. The visuals, the music by Daft Punk, and everything was all thanks to Tron Legacy just having this incredible style about it. And the story was amazing and the visual effects were really good, except for when they were trying to deepfake Kevin Flynn's face. That was not great, but honestly, it's a really well-aged film, and I love it a lot. The budget of it was $170 million, and then it made $409.9 million, according to what Google says. By that account, it was a commercial success, but not really. You see, Disney wanted to make more money off of it, and also they put a whole bunch of toys into there, and so they're like, well, we're not seeing the profit that we really, really wanted. They were kind of okay with it. Now, 15 years later, we're now at Tron Ares. Disney has announced that they're going to make a brand new Tron with a new director, and it's going in a new direction, and all of that. But I didn't explain why that got there. And I'm just about to explain in just a second. Give me a second, I gotta erase this whole idea. So, turns out that I can just put this back in, so it's not a big deal, but I don't trust it. So let's talk about maybe why Disney was creating this. Well, the maybe reason. Well, fans wanted this for years. Obviously, I'm one of those fans that have always wanted a sequel to Tron. And so it's always felt like that Disney should have done it. And I'm kind of happy they're doing it, but we'll get into that in just a second. But probably the real reason is right behind me, so let's address it. Disney IPs aren't working out. In a recent article that Variety posted, they were talking about how Disney's IPs are not working for younger males. So now they're like, oh, well, we need to get a newer IP. And so I feel like this is why Tron Ares was the reason. And honestly, you can see how they got to this. First off, Lucasfilm. Star Wars is working out, right? The Force Awakens did really well, and so did Rogue One. But then The Last Jedi fundamentally split the fandom in half, and then after that came Solo: A Star Wars Story that bombed at the box office, even though it wasn't a horrible film, but at the same time, not a lot of people were like watching it. It flopped. So Disney was so scared by that, they literally pulled Star Wars out of theaters. Then there's Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Oh my gosh, that was horrific. And it tried to do some things, but it really did not work out. And then there's Willow, right? Willow was this new series that was supposed to have some new love into the franchise. Is now removed off of Disney+. For Marvel, it's really about everything after Endgame, right? Some of the movies after Avengers Endgame did work out, like Spider-Man No Way Home, or I would even say Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Not many of the Marvel movies after Endgame really made the same amount of money after that. Oh, and also Deadpool and Wolverine. But like, yeah, so Marvel wasn't working out really well either. And then their own Disney IPs. For example, Pirates of the Caribbean wasn't really working out. They were wanting to try to replace Johnny Depp, but a lot of people weren't happy about that. And when they did make a Pirates, which is really interesting, we'll get into that in just a second, that didn't prove to be super successful. And then there's also two big films that I think about that aren't really mentioned. There's The Haunted Mansion, which also I'll talk about later, and also Jungle Cruise. These two were based off of like attraction rides that were made into IPs. They were trying to mimic what Pirates was doing, but had various degrees of success. Haunted Mansion did not succeed, and Jungle Cruise wasn't a big hit either. Also, to add to this, Disney's other IPs, such as their live-action films and their own movies, weren't really working at the box office. So then, obviously, like 2 or 3 years ago, Disney was like, we should make a new Tron. So that's where I feel like we're at. But now we gotta talk about like the good stuff that's working for Tron Ares and the bad stuff that's not working very well for Tron Ares. Give me a second. Okay, so let's talk about everything that's working against Tron Ares and everything that's working for Tron Ares. Let's talk about what's working against. So for first and foremost, Jared Leto. A lot of people don't like Jared Leto. Makes sense. 2016 Suicide Squad was a bad rep for Jared Leto. There were so many things that happened on there, from the dead rats to used sexual things. Like, I honestly think that's crazy. Again, there was also Morbius that also happened where he was using the crutches and it was making him having problem using the bathroom, which is crazy. And yeah, also Jared Leto is a producer on this movie, so that's kind of not great either. We don't know that, but I also want to say something really quickly for Jared Leto. He did the movie called The Haunted Mansion, which did flop at the box office. I saw it twice, and I personally think that Jared Leto wasn't the biggest egregious sin to that movie. It was honestly the writing, which we'll get to in just a second. But yeah, that's the reason why I believe maybe Jared Leto is kind of working against it. I'm kind of curious to see how he will pull this one off, or won't. We'll see. Then the director of this movie also did Pirates of the Caribbean 5, which is not a good choice. Pirates 5 was not the best Pirates, so yeah, but I mean, like, that's all I really have going against him. That's it. But I think the biggest thing nowadays is that Disney isn't very good with their movies anymore. They used to be really good, right? But I think that the reason why Disney wanted to do Tron Ares is that they're like, well, all of our IPs are ruined. But that's literally Disney's fault because they don't have good writing or people that care about their writing. So I'm kind of upset with that. But let's talk about everything that's kind of working for the new Tron Ares. Well, Kevin Flynn is back, and also the original, like, 1982 Tron Grid is back. So that's exciting. Hopefully that will be good. Again, that's the writing that will have to carry that. People who worked on Tron Legacy are now returning for this film. Honestly, pretty good. That means that the people understand the visual, like, world of what Tron is, and I really appreciate that. The director from Tron Legacy is also an executive producer for this, so maybe the writing isn't cooked. Also, he did meet with the director, and he was able to, like, talk good stuff about it. So maybe Tron Ares isn't all that bad. But there's a plot twist. You see, this was all a lie, as they tried to make this before. And I will review all the juicy details with you.
So let's get into it.
Okay, this may actually contain spoilers for Tron Ares, because there's this movie called Tron Ascension, and this is a very interesting tale. You see, back in 2015, or a couple years after Tron Legacy, Disney was going to make a sequel pretty quickly to Tron Legacy, but that didn't happen. But here's what we know. This story was going to be focused on Sam and Cora, who are like the two main people from the end of Tron Legacy. And it was going to show like multiple grids. It would even show potentially like the grid spanning into our real world. And a rogue program named Ares. That's important. That's pretty interesting. And that rogue program then materializes in the real world. And like, what would that mean? What would that imply as an AI? And then Cora was like gonna find her humanity and everything like that. And I didn't write it on here, but supposedly they had like 80% of this done. Until this little movie called Tomorrowland 2015. No, I'm not referring to the cultural rave place, Tomorrowland. I'm referring to the movie. I don't know why Google always gets that confused, but that's always what happened. Tomorrowland 2015 was trying to be something akin to Pirates and trying to make its own like IP. But that did not do well. It did really bad at the box office. The writing was not great. And honestly, all the time that we spent in Tomorrowland was 20 minutes max, which is insane. And I honestly would say to Bradford, why didn't you just make a conflict in Tomorrowland with characters from Tomorrowland?
I didn't like make this super clear, but the reason why that Tomorrowland was such a big problem was because it flopped and Disney got scared. So they're like, in 2015, what movie also comes out? The Force Awakens. It makes a lot of money and Disney's like, okay, no more Tron, no original IP stuff. We're just going to go with Star Wars. So that's what happened.
So here's where the interesting thing comes in. This plot points from Tron Ascension is probably in Tron Ares. So that's what is happening. But this leads to the big question. This leads to the final question that everyone is asking. Will Tron Ares be enough? Will it be enough in its plot? Will it be able to do more than Tron Legacy? Will it be able to live in the legacy of Tron Legacy? Wow, ain't that funny? But will it be enough for Disney to like it? If not, it's probably dead. Disney will probably move on to a different IP franchise or whatever and just accumulate it or whatever. And that would really suck, because if it is, Tron lives. Because there's a lot of stuff that's been happening with Tron over the years. We've had a couple Tron spin-off games that have been okay, but there's also been like some really cool stuff like older Tron games like Tron Evolution, or there was that really cool show Tron Uprising, and we could finally see a continuation of that. In fact, the actor that has played Sam Flynn has came out and said, if Tron Ares does well, there could be a chance that we would finally see where their story goes. And if that is the case, that would be awesome. I mean, it's kind of stupid that Tron Ares is literally not about the Flynns, but according to Disney, it shouldn't be, when literally Tron Ascension was about that and everyone was way more invested about that. And honestly, a lot more fans are wanting to just see him appear and Cora at like some point in the movie. It would be so cool if they were like a tease at the end of the movie. We don't know. I'm hoping, I'm begging, because Tron Legacy was so freaking cool. And the original Tron. I hope that this movie honors all three. But that's the question. Will it or will it not? And that's what I tend to find out on October 8th. So here's to hoping that Tron Ares will be able to fulfill all my hopes and dreams for Tron. Thanks for watching.